Hello and welcome to Class L Probe Augmented Reality. This is the show where we take topics from our other show, Debate 9, and we dive deeper because we only get a minute to discuss them on that other show. And some of these things need to be discussed at much greater length. We are your hosts, Devin and Dave, aka Plain Simple Tailors, and along with us as always on this show, co-founder of this show.
Oh, I get a co-founder.
Yeah, you're co-founder of this show, Adam Woodward.
Nice to see you guys.
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, nice to see you. Happy New Year to you both.
It's been too long since the last time. I think it was summertime when last time we did this.
I think it was.
Too long.
Yeah, summer, early fall, something like that. Yeah.
Launching probes into things. That should be done regularly, I tell you.
He does love a good probe.
Just the Class L's. The other ones, I don't know about those. So, fellas, we should probably just jump right into this, maybe.
Sure. Where do we want to start?
Let's start with the deep ones. I think Dave's got the deepest one to talk about.
Oh, that question jumped right out my way we've got quite a substantial list at this point, and so that one escaped my notice the first time I went through, but I read back up from the bottom and I thought, oh man, it's a good one.
Okay.
So you got a slide for this? Great. Yeah, that's right. So this is a question.
Hold on.
I don't know who originally proposed it.
Yeah. Actually, 1 second. Let's launch this probe. We got to launch this probe first.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we did that. Oh, sorry.
That was
I'm still glad we did that.
Let me try that again. Okay. All right. No explosion.
No explosion this time.
Jeepers. Having trouble passing that probe.
I think I launched it at a moon or something.
So, is the Federation ban on augments a mistake? This one caught my eye because it's a really interesting piece of pretty solid Star Trek lore ever since Khan showed up, really, right? I think is the first significant treatment we get of this theme. But it's returned again and again. It's had a whole story arc in Enterprise. It's had a story arc or two or several in Deep Space Nine. Even a couple of interesting treatments on Next Generation. One with the augmented soldiers who live on a moon. Hopefully you didn't just shoot that one. Of their home planet because they can't return home. And some others. But the Federation's ban on augment goes right back to 20th century and 21st century Earth in that history. And honestly, I think it's a really fascinating, positive commitment that was made really early on in the original series that deserves further scrutiny just as a turn essentially against eugenics.
And it's interesting too because it's just so harsh, and it seems it's been there for so long without really any revisions that we know of, and that just seems a little un-Starfleet. Well, I mean, I guess is it a Federation or a Starfleet ban? It's a Starfleet ban, right? Or is it a Federation ban? Well, I guess you can't.
It's an Earth and a Starfleet ban, as far as I know.
Yeah, you can't. The Federation couldn't ban that. I don't imagine, but
listen, I suppose maybe not.
I actually struggle with this question a lot because this goes beyond Star Trek, and you think and to me it's Gattaca.
Okay,
you think
just rewatched that movie on my other movie podcast.
It's such a great movie.
Oh, it was terrible.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it because I love the question, and it comes back to the whole thing.
It had some good questions. It just did.
Yeah, but it's the same question we're answering tonight.
podcast.
Is that do we have the right to look at our offspring and make them better? Essentially, like I mean, I would not hesitate if I could take a cancer gene out of my kid's future.
Oh yeah.
Or fix my son's eyes so he doesn't have to wear glasses. Before they're born. I love that.
They do allow some amount of it for medical use, as far as like fixing defects and things.
But the challenge is, where do you stop?
Yeah, so they had to draw a line somewhere. It's not like it is a complete ban on all that type of science.
No. I think there's all sorts of genetic therapies and all sorts of in vitro therapies and all sorts of things they'll do. Absolutely. And I think those are essentially, as Davin pointed out, to correct for what would be essentially life shortening or life ending developmental problems, right? But when we get to the question of augments here, we're getting to that other side of the question of better, I think. Because I think you make a good point, Adam, about the sense of like, I immediately right now want life to be better for my children than it was for me. Right. And I've had a pretty decent life, but I still want my kids' life to be better, more happy, more peaceful than mine, so why wouldn't we carry that over there? I think the other question, though, is to what degree do we understand better? And Trek certainly poses that question in a way that I think is authentic by posing it in the form of thinking about a superiority problem, and
on behalf of the augments themselves.
Well, but that these kinds of questions, unless extremely constrained in terms of how we allow ourselves to explore them, lead toward essentially the problem of eugenics opening again, right? Yeah.
Now they're certainly like shaken and a little rattled a bit by the whole eugenics war they had over the thing. So there's that. That's an Earth problem. Like in Starfleet, it's not just Earth, though it is certainly a majority partner, you could say.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they were able to, press that onto the rest of Starfleet.
Well, I think certainly, and I think probably, this may well come out of Roddenberry's own convictions, right, in the late 60s, right? Because, eugenics there, and much more clearly understood than now, was certainly in the late 60s and before that understood as deeply connected to fascism, right? And a lot of the excesses of fascist regimes either in Italy or Spain or Germany or perhaps elsewhere, right? So I think there's part of the Federation's hardness, and I think you're right to recognize that, Davin, part of the Federation's hardness against the very question of eugenics is precisely, I think, a commitment arising from that post-war generation as well, right? Which understands that the birth of eugenics is like very closely aligned with the birth of fascism, and that they're not far from each other. They're very next door neighbors in many ways, right?
Now, because they think that by augmenting some part of the person, you sort of augment all of the person as far as ambitions and aggression and all these types of things. But or that they end up like unable to quite interact with society, like Jack and them on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But now that they've had examples of successful augmentation, like Dr. Bashir, do you revisit it now? Now do they revisit it?
See, I
think now they've got examples of it working.
That's one person, and
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that once you get the collective together, and now you've got somebody or a group that feels like they're better than everybody else, and then that other group has to be oppressed in some fashion. That's when we get into trouble.
Or like literally ought not exist because they're not the right kind, right? Like Julian Bashir in his early life was, as far as the story sounds, perhaps developmentally delayed, perhaps intellectually disabled in some respects. Uh, but does that mean he doesn't have the right to exist? You know, or that his existence is somehow a mistake? Just in the sense that the augments pose the question, I think in a wonderful science fiction way, like the other augments from that institute pose it in the opposite side, where they're like, well, are these people's existence a mistake? Somebody made them. They didn't ask to get made. What do we do with them now? Right? How do we afford these people who have been created a life? I think it highlights beautifully the two sides of that problem, right? Like these people are being locked away in the same way that people with certain kinds of disabilities used to be put in sanatoriums or that sort of thing, right?
But in real life situations today, as you're saying this, and I'm thinking about that next gen episode too, where you had the super soldiers. But isn't the entire military that way when they come back and they're ignored or not funded properly? And we hear nothing but negative stories out of Afghanistan, vets, and the other. I don't know where all America's been, but everywhere else they've been. Terrible suicide rates. No support structure. It seems.
Wow.
We've created. I don't. Super soldier or not, a soldier's better. Like they're better fit. They're better armed. They know things the rest of us don't. And now you have that culture now coming back.
Yeah. And I think, in the sense of that kind of institutionalized life, a kind of sequestered life, the transition of, people who've been in correctional situations back into society can be equally traumatic, even for the person coming out, right? Who really has very few skills of living in the kind of community they left perhaps many years before at this point. We have certain kinds of determinate limits on sentencing in Canada, which means that, we're not necessarily very often locking people up for more than 25 or 30 years. But that's still, anywhere up to that is still an awful long time to be out of community, right? These are really interesting questions about, how people become, in some sense, fully human again after they haven't been, or how they may fall away from that valuation.
I was at the Ottawa War Museum back in the summertime, and I'm fascinated by this question. I know we're getting off of we're going on a tangent here, but is that you get they had this whole section in there about the reintegration of all the World War II soldiers, where you had this huge mobilization going over to Europe and then coming back. But it doesn't seem like they were given a pamphlet and said, here's how you integrate back into society, go. But there you had such a massive part of society coming back, and I think it was a little different. But it's just very interesting to me, is because, Davin, you said it, and this is why I'm down this path, is that they didn't choose to be this way. And yes, you choose to be a soldier, not in Canada particularly, but regardless, you don't know how things are going to end up.
Sure. And I think, interestingly, if you look at the history of soldiers after the First and Second World War, particularly the Second World War, there were, both in the United States and in Canada, huge things like housing and education incentives, work programs, all sorts of stuff that did an enormous amount of that integration work by giving people avenues to throw themselves into in some ways, right? And places to find a stable spot to be. There's really interesting history here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, about housing collectives that grew up post-war, where individual neighborhoods would actually build each other's houses from these kind of like kits that pieces would be delivered, right? And these folks lived beside each other for 45, 50 years. And they're all this crazy community because they literally built each other's houses together. So there were, fascinating structural incentives at that time, which I think, you rightly identify as not being anywhere nearly so much in play today.
Yeah. I was listening. Do you
Is
guys
it-
see the movie
Yeah,
Greyhound?
No.
The Tom
No.
Hanks. It's worth watching. It's World War II. He's a captain of a destroyer that escorts convoys back and forth. Anyway,
Okay.
he was doing a podcast with Dan Carlin. If you know him, he's the
Hardcore history, yeah.
yes, hardcore history. Yeah. Anyway, so Dan Carlin was asking him about the movie, but they got into this tangent about veterans coming back, and they were talking about Lee Marvin, who was in the war, and because he was a movie star, and he was brought up to be perceived to be this great guy who he plays in the movies, and he said I was nothing like that. I got shot in the ass. But what Tom Hanks goes is like there was this, who a real hero? Oh no, it was Lee Marvin who said the real hero was the guy, the marshal on the beach. No guns, no weapons. All he had to do was get the landing craft on. And that turned out to be the guy who played Captain Kangaroo they were talking about.
Wow.
And now why I say that is that there was just so many people come back together that everybody had an experience. That they shared in some fashion. Anyway, it was just I think that also makes a difference. But anyway, sorry, completely off.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a really interesting.
Because it's funny because you see how certain characters in Starfleet, like Maddox, or like him specifically to Positronic Brains, but you'd think there would be people within the Admiralty that would be all about creating human data, because basically that's what they could do with augmentation. They could get that data for every ship, but he's just your like third officer, and he's an augment, and he has a computer brain, and he's good enough fight.
Right. Right.
But
and I think we see some of that in there's a Dr. Pulaski episode where she's aging very quickly, and I think so is the rest of the crew, where they've attempted to do that out on a very far outpost. So it seems like that impulse is still somewhere in the Federation, right? And still even among human scientists, right? Like that impulse is hard to root out because we want things to improve. And we do want things to be like technically, we want ourselves to improve. Like I want to get better at stuff that I'm not as good at as I'd like to be. Like there's a certain reasonable logic to that. But yeah,
is that not what Picard says? Like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm interested to see where you're going with this.
Well, he's just like, what does he say to Lily in First Contact? We're here to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. Like, augmentation seems to be like the most technical form of that. So you think there'd be like a lot of that impulse in Starfleet and in the Federation, really. Well, I mean, I guess that's an Earth sentiment. But
somewhere along the line, people really feel uncomfortable with how far you go. Like for say, I want to better myself and I want to eat better and I want to be more healthy in my back half of my life than I have in my first half. Is that an augmentation? Probably in some fashion, but you're okay with that. Everybody's going to be fine with that. But if I was to go and get super intelligence and, start thinking I could take over the world, then you might have a problem.
Or taking a bunch of steroids.
What about the super intelligence without the taking over the world? Would that bother people?
It seems like that's they go together. Blade Runner is another example of that.
Bashir. He doesn't want.
Well, Blade Runner also has that wonderful theme.
Still begrudge him for his augmentation somewhat. So it's like, do people just not want somebody to be artificially better than them, regardless of taking over the world?
Well, I think we're still encountering the language problem they're using of better, right? What exactly do we mean by better? And when we're interested in that language, what are we actually up to?
But you go back to the, like Khan, and he
thinks he's better.
He thinks he's better, superior, mentally,
he definitely
physically.
Thinks he's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he can put sort of like his money where his mouth is in some ways, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I think I ran over you, Adam.
I'm sorry. I was done there. I just think, I guess, in the Star Trek, in the science fiction world, you always see the swing to the other side. Like, if I'm better than you, then I have to be the fascist that Dave was just talking about, along the way. And I think it's because of the fear of just normal people that there will be a society greater or bigger than them, stronger than them, smarter than them. And then what happens then? There's division of labor, and here we are, slave race.
Mm.
Is it that,
Yeah.
or is that? Do you think that's the reason for how harsh the ban is and how long it's lasted, or do you think it is like the fear of an arms race? Like you say, I'll make myself this much more strong in intelligence. It's like, well, I'll do it this much, and then I'll do it this much, and then all of a sudden it's just like, what's left? Is everyone Incredible Hulk with like the leader's brain? Like,
Well, I don't think you could leave that out in that kind of a context, right? If everybody's got that kind of crazy ability to manipulate their bodies, the
Borg?
Suliban demonstrating that
Like-
in classic fashion, right? Or the Borg, right? You're
with the
right.
Borg
Like that
thing.
that question of an arms race can't be left out of it. Yeah, I think that'd have to be an ingredient in there somewhere for sure.
Listen, Dave says, but if you're better than modern humans, then you would actually be above the notion of having to rule over others, so they are still
Again,
imperfect.
What does better mean? What do you mean by better here?
But here's the thing: is that, and this is where
Stronger, faster.
I do agree with a ban,
Smarter.
or at least a limitation, and of things that can happen. Is, look, we keep seeing it in our history. When culture defines itself as better as the other, what do you get? You get a subclass, you get a sort of slave race, you get, problems that just go into decades and decades, hundreds of years later, we're still dealing with issues. But, and this is where I have the personal challenge of it, is like, here I think this is a good analogy. An Olympic person who takes the steroids, versus a normal guy.
Steroids.
Right.
Mhm.
So either I
Define
participate, participate in that so I can compete properly, or I'm not going to compete. So, you're in order to make myself better and stronger and able to compete, I have to alter something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a fan.
And that starts up, and those arms races do happen with sports and steroids. Like,
Sure.
Well, you gotta get the best juice. The one that can't be
The
contained.
secret juice?
Yeah, exactly. Denobula didn't have any problem with augments. They do that sort of thing all the time. Phlox said in an Enterprise episode, and like there's no.
That's interesting.
But they collectively somehow never ran amok with it and never created like weird superhumans. They just use it for like more medical purposes, but probably for like mild enhancements or something. Who knows?
Well, it's an interesting point because it could also be that is like the tendency toward like eugenic fascism may be an endemically human problem. It may be endemic to certain species, right, or with certain kinds of histories. But it certainly seems to be an endemically human problem. Yeah, that like we can't seem to get that piece straight whenever we try and go for all the other bits that look so appealing in it,
Now, can you ban augmentation, but maybe not ban augments? Because as we said, they didn't ask to be augments. Even the worst of augments, didn't ask to be an augment. So
that's a great question, right? And then it enters the gene pool.
Apparently, we don't know how many are out there, but there's Jack and Admiral Patrick, as he calls himself, and like her name Loren or something. Lauren,
Sarnia, Del Douglas.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the list here. Ethan, Larkin, Kelly.
So like people are out there doing it.
Oh yeah.
So.
And I mean, that's once the genie's out of the bottle, that way it's hard to stop people doing it. I mean, look, Julian's parents got it done to him. Yeah. So it's
and he got
that's a really interesting question.
Punished, but his father,
like how do you properly either compensate or make room for somebody? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem to have hurt Bashir that badly in the end. But luckily, he had a pretty illustrious career.
He did have a good career. Yeah. Fine doctor.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Fine bedside manner, unlike maybe one of the doctors we're going to talk about in a minute. Well, as is tradition on this show, fellas, we have to answer this question: is the Starfleet ban on augments a mistake? Who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. I don't believe it's a mistake. at all. I think that we don't know all about it, and I think there's probably, to your point, I can fix my physical problems, but I can't do more than that, or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just think the whole core of the Federation is equality, and once you can engineer somebody into something else, it just feels off to me. It doesn't feel like equal.
Hmm.
So it's interesting, even without like the fear of kind of like taking over the world and someone doing you harm because they're enhanced. There's still like there is this like not liking some artificial advantage given to somebody else. Like that's certainly the sports example.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But,
And I think again, the other side of that is the Pandora's box example that we were talking, or side of it too that we were talking about, right? Like once we're willing to do that, what else becomes possible, right? I think it's and I mean, in some ways, those are two sides of the same coin because that also describes an arms race, But yeah, I think it's definitely not a mistake in the end.
I agree because of the arms race thing. If you could somehow guarantee that it wouldn't get insanely crazy, I think you could maybe find a way to make it work. But yeah, I think they got it right on there, Starfleet. Maybe they should revisit it a little bit. I don't know because it seems like an old one. It's been sticking around a while. But so this is speaking of cranky doctors, or bedside manner, I suppose. Let's launch another probe here, fellas.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
We're good. All right. So would Dr. Pulaski have been a better doctor for the Next Generation than Dr. Crusher if she had stayed beyond season 2?
Now, may I interrupt you for 1 second, Adam? I'm very curious on why you picked this one because I'm glad you did. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. But like, I look at that list of Debate 9 debates, and I'm like, in my mind, there's like some really kind of deeper philosophical ones, and then there's sort of the ones we just have fun debating, and that's kind of what the category I put this one in. But
yeah, it's true.
I'm curious on where you want to go with this.
I knew Dave would go heavy because he does. But you didn't quote one philosopher tonight, I must say.
Wait for it.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, I got a good. Yeah.
So,
what did Plato say about Dr. Pulaski?
Jerk face.
Jerk face.
Anyway, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. Listen, this was my as a kid, I remember watching original series. I'm just over 50, 51 right now, so he gives my age. But Next Gen for me I was in grade 12 or 13 when it popped out, and I remember watching the pilot and thinking, "Now this is something great," and then but not really sure, especially when the ship separated and like that. But I got on. So I spent a lot of time in Next Gen watching week to week in those days when you had to wait for the episodes and your cliffhanger. Here we go. There's Dave's comment already. Pulaski's different, but not better. Now, so first season comes around, not really loving it yet, but it was good. And then season 2 came along, and what's the change? Well, we've got Crusher gone for some reason, and Diana Mulder in, who played. Oh, she was in the original series twice, by the way.
Yeah.
Miranda Jones, and then she played the highest-ranking female officer. Dr. Ann Marshall. She was a lieutenant commander.
She wasn't in the original episode with Khan, was she?
No,
that's somebody. Okay, that's somebody else.
Yeah. Can't remember her name, but anyway, long and short, great actress. She's got history with the franchise. So she wasn't pretty like everybody else. Like she wasn't a Dr. Crusher. She wasn't Deanna Troi.
She certainly was in those TOS episodes.
She was. She was a very attractive.
She was certainly a very lovely lady. It's just her hair was very, like,
it was very 60s. Oh, I mean, in
TNG. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But they could have made her prettier if they wanted to. They just didn't go that route with the character.
Right. It was odd seeing, the medical officer in an actual uniform. She wore one versus Crusher wore the jacket all the time, and I think the first couple episodes there was definitely some crustiness to her. They were trying to link her back to McCoy, but she got out of that really fast. For only being one season in the show, I thought her character really evolved over that time. They had that stupid thing where she called data, and it just didn't seem natural for a doctor to do that, but they got out of that fast enough. You know, that was good. What I liked about her over Crusher was she challenged the captain. It wasn't a personal relationship from years gone. So she's new to the crew. She's got a different standing with everybody, so she can challenge more. You know,
didn't have that trust.
She seemed
like everyone.
You know, and then when we saw her operate, like example on Worf's back. Remember when he was back, or he had the 3 hearts or something? She did something, but she just seemed like a more capable.
It wasn't
doctor.
The back thing. That was Crusher and some doctor they brought in.
Okay, but anyway, she just seemed more capable as a doctor. You know, somebody you get down there. She's clearly come through the ranks to get a CMO position. She's gritty. You know, I liked it. I liked the fact that she, to me, somebody on the executive staff has to be able to stand up to the captain, and really nobody in that room did. Even Riker, he was very much a yes.
Worf sometimes, but
I protest.
Yeah, nobody listened to him, so it didn't.
No, but they listened to her, and you know, at the time, I think I liked Captain or Dr. Crusher much better, but looking back, I think I like Dr. Pulaski a lot better, and I really would have liked to see how that would have gone. Now, and I come back to the episode Borg, and we get to the whole debate about the nanoprobes, and they could have infected the Borg, and that would have been that. And I found at the time it was great, but you know, post 9/11 now and everything that's happened since, I can't believe that crew wouldn't have taken the opportunity to solve the problem, you know, and I feel like Dr. Pulaski would have been on that side. You know,
you think Dr. Pulaski would have wanted to destroy the Borg?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's not really the way they usually portray their medical officers as always wanting to.
But it feels like to me, Dr. Pulaski's seen battle. She's been around the block. So. You know,
she hung out with Kyle Riker.
Yes, she did.
That's true.
They a dumb jet together, whatever it was. So,
more than dumb
and Bojitsu.
Bojitsu, pardon me, that was it. Anyway,
and Bojitsu.
Full contact and Bojitsu.
Yeah, like when you look at her, you see a crustiness, you see experience that I don't think Crusher had. You know, she was such an emotional woman. She was crying all the time, and I'm not trying to make this a negative Crusher thing. There's just a difference, a very, very big difference in skill set and personality.
She also had her son on the ship, which kind of made her more vulnerable.
Right. Okay, so she's got 2 people she's like bound by, Picard and her son. Like that's another thing. He's like, can she make the right decisions? You know, all the time. I don't know if they did. And I never liked the story arc of Picard and Crusher getting together.
No, neither did I really. It's too weird. Like he ordered her husband to death basically. Yeah.
And now
it's funny you say that, because the one time, my favorite Crusher moment is the one time she sort of does stand up to Jean-Luc. It's the one where the naked sex hippies wanted to kill Wesley for crushing their flowers.
Oh yeah.
And she just tells Jean-Luc straight up, she's just like, I will not let them kill my son, Jean-Luc. So like, you can fix this. Or like, we're going to my plan. And you know, it involves phasers.
Yeah, I didn't like that. So, I mean, it was a good episode, sort of, but I just
no, it's not a great episode.
It's a Wesley Crusher episode, which he shouldn't have had so many.
That's a good.
Well, it's an episode full of weird failures, right? In interesting ways.
I guess if I was to play some counterpoint on that, I mean, you make a lot of good points about Pulaski there. The biggest downside, I think, to Pulaski is that she's essentially just Lady Bones. It's just Bones again. It's just Bones again.
She never had
in the very next series. It's like it's literally the same Doctor in the very next series. in a
Yeah.
way. Like she's the folksy one. She's the more aggressive one as far as telling people her opinion. By the way, are we collecting probe data right now or probe data?
Yes, data.
That's the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Cousin Dave says Pulaski would kill the Borg for sure. She phasered her clone with Riker. When did she have a clone? What? Explain yourself, Cousin Dave.
I don't.
Oh, yeah. And in the episode where she's aging like crazy.
Oh yeah, yes. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. They like hybridized a clone of
Oh.
her and Riker up real fast. They spun it up. I think it's that one.
Feel free to
Dave
jump
can
on the feed,
correct
by
us
the way, Dave.
if we're
We
not
got one
if
more.
I'm not
We
on the
got
right
one more to
episode.
go.
Yeah, I feel like. Go ahead, dude.
Well, no, for me, one of the things I liked was that Pulaski was a very different personality from Crusher. It really set her apart as a character. Some of the things I didn't like about that personality are what I had problems with overall with the character, right? Was that she was weirdly bigoted about various things.
Mm-hmm.
In a bad way,
Uh,
which is strange for this future medical person, right?
well, I found those pieces very, very strange, and almost as though they tried to sort of course correct too much. Uh, Although, if she'd stuck around beyond season two, I think she could have offered opportunities to see those edges really strongly challenged in her, right? Like she could have had more episodes where Data demonstrates that no, he's a freaking person, or where other aliens can demonstrate things. Because she did seem to have a kind of like humanocentric bias,
Oh,
you
very much
know?
so.
Maybe Deanna takes her to task.
There's a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity to bring her back, and over 7 seasons, and they never did. It was just too bad, really.
Yeah, she would have been a great guest star in various ways, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe it's that very different Doctor Deanna,
Thanks, Dave.
Doctor Crusher to Doctor Pulaski. And yes, she saw things black and white, which is a little bit weird. Yes, she was a lot like Bones, but they never had the chance really to get her out of that. To Devin, it was only one season.
Well, was going to be my next question. What did we see as far as character development for Crusher in
Nothing. She was the same
Good.
freaking Doctor as she started with, just older when she finished. The only episode where she showed
She's
growth,
a little less like what's the word? I don't know the word, but she's a little more. She kind of play in the first season and maybe even the third season. She kind of plays like more the classic. I don't want to say damsel, but like a more classic kind of female character where she's.
listen, she's an
seems
officer. She's an officer,
Yeah.
and I never felt like she was in charge. Like I felt, I just, for me, Pulaski is in charge. Like she's part of the command crew. She can do stuff. She's definitely got the personality type for it. I just like Crusher was almost like Nurse Chapel, like very agreeable, So
I hear you.
Well, what do you think they do with Pulaski in 5 more seasons?
Well, it'd be interesting. I think that's the problem. Like once you start down that crusty path, you're like Bones was another one. He never really changed his character, even through the movies. It's the same guy.
Yeah. I'm a doctor,
like
not a
everyone
guy
else
who
on
changes his character.
Everyone else on that TNG crew like really gets along. Like as far as probably more than any Star Trek crew in any series before or since.
Yeah.
They really get along, and she was kind of the one thorn in the side of all that.
Well, I mean, she joined late, season in. She, she's got to break herself in, and she immediately, alienated herself by calling Data. So,
and double down on it. Like, what does it matter? It's like, geez. It's like, geez.
Yeah.
Like, what a nasty thing to say.
It's not essential.
Yeah, actually, that wouldn't have been today. That couldn't have been written. It's too. Doesn't feel right, But
yeah.
Cousin Dave says Crusher had a good relationship with all the crew. She bossed Alyssa Ogawa. She commanded the Enterprise when Laura stole Data. She had a space ghost. Yeah, she did do space.
Is she
And she
putting
had
that in as a
pseudo-romance with
pro?
the
She
guy.
never bossed Alyssa Ogawa around. She was her best friend. Come on.
Well, that's her leadership style. Like, isn't that better for medical staff? Like, do you want everyone on friggin' edge in the med bay because Pulaski's being all grumpy with them?
Well, you need them to jump when they need to jump. When there's, when there's, and maybe she had that, but I think she was just too nice for a chief medical officer.
Too nice, too nice. Is Bashir too nice?
Maybe not. Well, good question.
Bashir's just trying to ask you on a date. That's Bashir's medical issue. Let's be straight up with that right away. Crossing interpersonal boundaries with patients.
I think
routinely.
Like if you look at the portrayal of any doctors in Star Trek or any actually just TV itself, especially when they're in the military, they're always these renegades, the guys who never follow the rules, and it's just an interesting way of looking at things. But the one thing is, I guess, is that when you look at Pulaski, she's definitely a military person. She's come up through this chain of command. She just, it feels like she could be in a red shirt.
I see what you mean. Yes.
Pulaski did Riker's dad.
Yes, that's what I said. Full contact ambo jitsu.
Full contact ambo jitsu, where he got good at it.
Only
Will
right.
When oh my. Well. Oh man. Yeah. See, I'm a little mixed on this, but what do you think? Should we answer this question, or any final thoughts on this one?
I don't know how to answer this question. Ultimately, it would have been a remarkably different show.
It would have been. Yeah, I think she would have had a bigger role.
Well, it's interesting what you said there, though, Adam, about how like doctors tend to be that counterpoint to the captain. Really, like they sort of be more renegade and sort of do their own thing because their motivations are very different in what they're trying to achieve. Oftentimes, like they don't really care about the mission. Really, they care about their part of the mission, and that's.
And they also the only ones on the ship that could take captain out of command.
Yeah, that too. That's always fun when that happens.
Yeah. Without consulting with anybody else,
that,
right?
I don't think. Yeah. Well, I
don't think so. She may have threatened it once, but that's about it.
Yeah, they have a definite power over the captain. Whether it's ever addressed or not, at least they have it.
You'd say the writers probably didn't do Crusher any favors. Crusher episodes usually weren't that good, except for the one where she takes command is really good, and the one where everything disappears and she ends up in like a micro universe.
Oh, that one's crazy.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I like the one where she and Picard are psychically tied together and trying to do a jailbreak.
That's good too. See, that's the thing
episode.
About her. When they are having more like lighthearted fun moments, I really like Beverly because she is that, and she kind of comes into her own that way more in the later seasons where she actually does become quite funny. And I never really got that from Pulaski. Pulaski never made me laugh. She just usually made me angry. But so I'll answer this first. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just Dave listed a bunch of things that Crusher had done well, and their thing is that in the final episodes, which were called, I can't remember, all good things, and she was a captain of the past year, which at the time, how did she get to be captain? It just seemed to
it was a medical ship, so it may have been more.
I still think you need.
And she went through command.
Somebody still needs to drive this thing.
And she's a commander. Like she went through that whole division. I remember when Deanna wants to become a commander, Crusher's like, yeah, I did that like a while ago or whatever. But,
yeah, which was a disaster. Deanna doing that. She should again stay in your lane.
She had ordered poor Geordie hologram to death.
Yeah, her heart really wasn't in it at the start of that episode. That's the real trouble, right? She's not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh,
go ahead, David.
I'm gonna say no. I because I do enjoy the humor that Crusher brings, and Pulaski was just. Though I do agree that it would have been nice to have that character to call Picard out a little more. Deanna does that sometimes. She'll call Picard out sometimes, I guess. But
It's a nice color. Oh, Captain, maybe you should think of it this way, rather than you're full of shit. And that's what Pulaski brought.
yeah, oh yeah, she might have used that line once. You're full of shit,
Yeah,
Picard. But no, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna
no, that's
go
fair. Yeah.
Beverly on this one. It might have
Yeah.
been a different show. I do agree. It would have been a very different show. Certainly, certain episodes.
Yeah, man. My answer was going to be like ships have to have more than one doctor, but shows don't have to have more than one doctor. So I think ultimately I prefer Crusher being there, but that may just be because I know what I've seen, right? It would be such a different show with Pulaski around. It'd be really different. Very interesting though, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that executive crew, they were very chain of command. They followed Picard, and very rarely did they go against him. And even in the movie, which one? First Contact. He's the captain. We're going to follow him. We're going to fight this to the end. Like, it was no question.
Dave was thinking the same thing. Is she kind of like Lily from First Contact? Now, I like Lily a lot better than Pulaski. I'll admit Lily's one of my favorite one-off characters. I think she was my favorite when we did that list on Locutors.
Oh, man. You from the Eastern Alliance? Yeah, great character. She's awesome, man. Yeah.
Yep. So I guess we know your vote on this, Adam. So
blow up the damn ship.
All right,
Captain.
let's blow up the damn ship. No. You broke your little ship.
Your little ship.
Yeah, that's a good movie. All right, let's try this last one. Then.
All right, what's our third?
What's our final probe here?
Ooh.
Should the Federation have been able to win the peace against the Dominion? This is the thing that bugs me the most, I feel like, about Deep Space Nine, which is not many things because I love everything about Deep Space Nine. So this is as bugged as I can get. But it bothers me a little because it's not the Federation. Isn't that not their whole thing? Like, are they not? Because if you're the Klingons, for example, you're always set up to win the war. Even if you're not at war, you're just preparing yourself to win a hypothetical war. So, like, that's what they're designed to do. But it's the Federation not designed to win the peace. They have ambassadors everywhere. They have peaceful alliances all over the place. So they don't really have that many enemies. I mean, I guess the ones they do have kind of make winning the peace the most problematic. But to me, it just seems like that's something they should have been able to do. Like, to Dominion, it should, even to the Federation's enemies, should seem like way worse than the Federation. You would think, at least an unknown quantity, which should give you some pause, right? I don't know. It just always bothered me. I feel like they should have won that piece.
I suppose an interesting question arises there of how or why didn't they? You know,
like,
and it seems to me that like,
yeah, go ahead.
No, like it seems to me that one of the reasons the Federation isn't able to win the peace is because they can't exert sufficient diplomatic influence over Cardassia to effectively prevent their alliance with the Dominion. And that's really what tips the scales into a situation where they have to declare war, right? Because they know that now that the Cardassians are Dominion allies, the Dominion is just going to bring more and more and more and more ships through the wormhole into Cardassian space until they can launch an all-out assault on everyone around them.
So you're
Uh,
saying all it took was for one half sizable power to go against them, and it kind of just screws them over as far as the peace. Because I
um,
can only talk like the Cardassia's alignment with the Dominion, because it gives
well,
them that
it
ultimate.
ultimately the Dominion turns Cardassia into a proxy, right? And simply pumps weapons and troops and ships and resources in there while sitting comfortably on the other side of a wormhole, right? The trouble for the Federation, I think, is that by the time they realize that they have, a huge problem, the sheer depth of the Dominion's control over the Gamma Quadrant, is only really glimpsed. And that's enough that they can lose a fleet in the wormhole and still think, yeah, we should probably keep sending more people, you know? Um,
Cousin Dave says the Dominion's objective was to conquer the Alpha Quadrant. I don't see how you negotiate when one's intent is unconditional domination. So I should clarify. So by win the peace, in the context that it's mentioned in the episode, that's where Cisco says
mhm,
if we're losing the peace, so maybe a war is our only hope. Um, it's not about making peace with the Dominion, but in that episode, Cisco's like, the longer we're at peace with the Dominion, the more inroads they seem to be making with other species
mhm.
in the Alpha and Beta quadrants. So it's that piece that I feel like the Federation should have been able to win. Like if you call a ceasefire with the Dominion, because they were already having skirmishes in some
Mhm.
measure of war before that. The longer that ceasefire goes, to me, that should benefit the Federation. They should be able to win that peace. It shouldn't be the Dominion that's now convincing the Zen Cathy to join them, and then convincing the whoever else, the Qatarians or whoever. They got quite a few people on side just through peaceful negotiations, like out piecing the Federation. And to me, that's a
What?
huge failure from the Federation because they're built for that
Well,
thing.
I think it behooves us to ask in that regard. Then, what sort of negotiations does the Dominion undertake?
They just
How
threaten
does a
you.
Vorta negotiate?
Well, we've seen some of
You
that.
know,
I mean,
uh,
they just butter you up and tell you what you want to hear until they can't, and then they get very stern and threatening.
right?
That's kind of the Vorta style,
Uh,
So Davin, if I
just like
can
the Federation. No.
interject here, is that I
Yeah,
think that Star Trek has been really uh, well. They show us their flaws, and that's the Admiralty. And you
yeah,
have a group of people that somebody in that group wants war all the time. It seems like there's
mhm,
somebody who, and as much as the Federation may have wanted the peace, I think when you have factions or self-interested people or whatever it might be, whether it be weapons producers or you mentioned the Klingons before, they would like nothing more than go to war. Like I'm sure they're disappointed. Oh damn, a peace has been negotiated. Oh, we didn't get to have one fight.
yeah.
right, right.
So inherently
One glorious death.
you have cultures or worlds in the Federation or just individuals who would just have an interest in pushing that direction forward. And I think no, not everybody would want the peace.
I think even those who didn't actively want war, would be at a disadvantage in some sense, like a deliberate chosen disadvantage to the Dominion. Like, your Picard or Spock diplomatic types, because Federation diplomacy insists on not coercing people, right? The Federation refuses to insist on its own way, except under very, very, very specific circumstances. And that's normally if you've chosen to shoot at them first. Uh, and even then, they still
Or
don't
when they like,
necessarily do it.
or if you ask the Maquis if they make an armistice with somebody and they just draw a line and you happen to be on the other side of it, they draw a hard line on you there. They'll insist you leave your planet. Oh yeah. What was it like? The
That
Northern
that was
colony
after the
wasn't
end
it?
of a lot of negotiations at the end of the Cardassian Border Wars. Yeah, and sure, I mean it's not that these things don't make a difference. I guess what I mean is I'm saying the general tendency of Federation diplomacy tends to be to not insist on their own way first off, right? And the Dominion's plan right out of the gate is always to sort of be negotiating essentially in what you could call bad faith. Whereas the Federation is always going to try and come in good faith for the most part, unless there's a bad admiral behind it or something like that who's messing up the thing. The Vort are literally coming in planning to get you over a barrel, you know? Um,
Oh, for sure.
and that means that they're going to find ways to put pressure on people, I think, that are different. You know, the Dominion would use economic hitmen in ways that I think the Federation would not be willing to allow itself, or would take itself to task and court-martial the admiral who used them. Like right when they try to use Ensign Rowe or those sorts of things, right?
Yeah. Because Dave
Uh,
says Ducat changed the game when they lost the peace with Cardassia because they tipped the balance. Now, is it perhaps like just for argument's sake? Now, say the Dominion was actually making inroads politically and without the threats, just based on these other species' perceptions of the Federation. Because, like, say, either way, you have two huge, powerful entities jockeying for your just alignment, I guess. Like that's all the
mhm,
Dominion's going to say. We just want you on side, and you can go on being yourself. Just give us our whatever they want, like some measure of
mhm.
compensation for being part of the Dominion. Like they'll probably want resources and maybe some soldiers. Who knows? Probably not soldiers. They make those, so they probably just want
Right.
resources when they need them. Like that's probably when like the Dominion calls on their kind of conquered planets, just when they need something particular from them, I would assume. But like the Federation, if you join them, it comes with a certain level of cultural assimilation. Like what we see in Federation worlds become more kind of generic Federation worlds, more so than if you were to join the Dominion and they promise to just leave you alone and just give us resources. You're going to have to give resources to the Federation if you join them too. But again, it comes along
Mhm.
with if you're more perhaps a more xenophobic race, you might find the Dominion legitimately preferable to the Federation because the
And the
Federation
Breen
is so
certainly seem to for
insidious,
that,
like
right?
root beer. Yeah, the
Right.
Breen, sure.
And that would certainly
Yeah, see,
be,
that's
I think that would
yeah.
be an excellent diplomatic entry for Vorta with the Zenkethi or the Cardassians or the Breen. It's not that they mean it, but that's going to be an excellent opening for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breen are
I think, I
mean.
mean, there'd be a
They're pretty
great
much.
sales pitch to be made, right? That the Federation's way of doing things does demand, you can't do any slavery anymore. You have to have a united world government. You can't go attacking your neighbors and all that sort of stuff. You generally have to try and be
Seems to
pretty
be what the
peaceful.
Romulans hate the most about them, those qualities. Like,
You have to have
because you
democracy.
think the Romulans could make peace with the Federation. Like, they're similar enough, but it's just like there's certain things they just really find sour about the Federation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Even the political structure, they have a Senate ruled by a praetor. It's a very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
well, should we answer this question?
Hmm. It's
Federation.
interestingly phrased, right? Because
Well, I guess that's why I had
I
to
suppose
think
I've
kind
been
of like,
almost answering like, could the Federation have been able to win the peace? But
well, is that the better question?
yeah,
Should the Federation have been able to win the peace?
yeah.
Could the Federation?
But
That is a good
yeah.
question.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it,
I mean,
well, I
honestly, they
guess
should have been. I
one
suppose.
answers the
Yes.
other. If they could, then perhaps they should have. But um,
Yeah.
could they have
But
been
they
able to
wouldn't,
win the
so they
peace? To me,
couldn't.
it
I
seems
guess.
like
Yeah.
yes. I feel like there was this, or maybe see that maybe not. Maybe because of that cultural assimilation element, they just never stood a chance in that way. with those certain species that weren't already Federation members, or they would have joined already. Because if you're a lot of those planets have been in contact with the Federation a long time, and if they had never had the inclination to join, there must be a very, very strong reason. So maybe it was
Well, and this may not be the moment they're
doomed.
going to do it either, when somebody else is making them a different offer. And
And
has
threatening to annihilate them.
giant, crazy spaceships coming along
Yeah.
behind them to demonstrate their point. Yeah. Yeah.
Because Dave says they won the peace when they won the war. Well, fair point. I don't think you can call it peace at that point, but
well, they maybe achieved a peace in the end. Yeah.
Geez, I've almost changed my own mind on this one. You guys go first. Phrase it however you like, could or should, however makes more sense to you.
I'll go. The answer is no. I think that within the Federation themselves, you never mind the Dominion. Just the structure of the Federation doesn't allow for one. Like, it's democracy, as I said before. Worlds have chances to vote. It's just you have too many paths that can be. Somebody's going to work against you. I don't think they can ever win that way.
You don't think they are as specialized for this kind of political outreach
as
maybe they claim to be?
Not when it's against the Borg, sure. It's a very black or white situation. But here, as Dave said, you got races that would
politicians on the other side too,
like to be ruled that way. Yes, we'll take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was going to go with the other one, but I've changed my mind during this debate. I agree with you, Adam. I think they were sort of doomed in that regard.
And I think in some ways, their whole habit sort of means that if they don't choose to be doomed in that piece, then they're not really the Federation anymore, right? Because ultimately, even their member planets have a guaranteed right to secede if they wish, right? And that's part of what makes it a free and democratic federation. I suppose they kind of have to go to war or they cease to be the Federation at that moment, which is an insane place to find themselves.
It really is. But, a war, you have a common goal, you have a common enemy. Win the peace to means you're making concessions. You're
or being very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Jesus, late. Persuasive.
Sure.
I think they're making concessions that couldn't tolerate. Some Federation worlds couldn't tolerate some concessions that were probably being made. And
that's certainly an internal dynamic that Dominion doesn't have to deal with at all.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
No, that's for sure.
There are many different arms. Which is a huge advantage. No. I mean, you could, I wouldn't want to.
Well, strategically that way,
But it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, it gives them a huge ability logistically. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you answer this one, Dave?
I think ultimately my answer's got to be they shouldn't have been able to win it because they're the Federation, and that's kind of how their structure works. Yeah. Yeah.
They, in fact, aren't designed to win the peace, we've decided here.
Not this particular piece, yeah.
Not this particular piece. You're right. Like, they can win the peace in other people's minds against the Klingons, maybe, or the Borg, or like.
Sure. But this one is, that was way out of their league. Yeah. All right.
That was some good probes there, fellas.
Indeed.
I thought.
Well, I feel it was thorough and rigorous.
Quite rigorous. Class L Probe is a science division show of Live Long and Podcast. We do lots of. This was quite scientific, I think. Here.
Live Long and Probecast.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, find us on Live Long and Probecast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you get your Probecasts. Contact us, Locutors at Trek and
Gmail. Seek out Magnus Carlsen for all your Probecasts.
Find the audio only version wherever you get your Probecast. So I almost messed it up again. And we are a
Oh,
proud
man.
member of the United Federation of Probecasts. They're Probecasts until this show's over tonight. And then they can go back to being podcasts. We have, what we do here, we do Locutors of Trek stuff here on Live Long and Podcast. We're going to do that Failures episode soon, Dave, maybe this week.
Oh, yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. Let's get it going.
We got a structure for it now. We're a little
We've so
behind.
far failed to get it done, but we'll get her done now.
That's true. We'll get it done. There we are. Look at that. There's Adam there. There's Dave with his happy pistol. Or his happy phaser there.
It's the happiest phaser on board.
We're all there. Yeah. We have the Command Division where they review shows. Adam, what's happening over there?
Well, we've been on a little bit of a hiatus, over the last couple of weeks for the holidays. So we are starting with season 3, episode 1 of Enterprise, Monday night at 8 o'clock. So we're looking forward to getting into that and seeing how Kevin Millar is liking this. Pardon? Yes, the Xindi are now
down in
Jacksonville. Oh, Tampa.
Tampa was not hit. Neither was Jacksonville. It was right down the middle. Orlando was the only city.
Oh, Orlando was the only one.
That's right.
Is that where Tripp's sister was living? Orlando.
Yes. Yeah. Gainesville or somewhere like that. We're down in the middle.
Okay.
Which it still to this day, they say 7 million people were killed in this. But there's barely, if you look at the population of Florida, it's all on the coastline. It's not in the middle.
No, but if you it went all the way down to Argentina.
Yes, it crossed Cuba, which doesn't have that many people.
When it goes to Brazil,
no, it just touched the top of Argentina. It didn't. Yes, maybe, but it didn't hit Brazil. It went to Argentina. Just because Argentina's on the top of the.
Well, that would be Venezuela.
Oh yeah.
Venezuela is. So anyway, it just touched South America, whatever country that is. It didn't go into Rio de Janeiro or anything like that.
Yeah.
So maybe the population's higher in the future.
Maybe people have found a way to live in the middle of Florida in the summer, which would be amazing.
Good God.
Domes.
It's just domed arcologies. That's it.
Domes surrounded by alligators and invasive ball pythons.
Exactly. They've drained the swamp. It's a whole Disney World. So
we have the observation where we use Star Trek Radio Theater, and they're also doing Deep Space Nine over there, the Command Division right now. Yeah, that's back from hiatus, I believe, as well.
I was rewatching.
It's Far Beyond the Stars next week. Check that out. Say what?
I was rewatching Strange New Worlds this weekend, and I've done 3 episodes. It is so good. It's still I've only watched it once, so this is now. I'm just seeing everything I didn't see the first time, and I'm happy to say that comes back in May, season 2.
Yeah,
right on.
Very happy.
Right on.
Reviewing that for sure. And as you saw, we have a Science Division, which you just saw a show of, and Locutors of Trek. Well, that's all what's going on there. But I have the X-Men X-rated the X-Men animated review show with my co-host Andre. We talk about the X-Men animated review show from the 90s and interview people involved with that show. Andre has the Graphic Histories podcast where he interviews all kinds of people from comics, movies, film, all kinds of stuff. Movies and film are similar, but not the same. I don't know. Anyway, Hold Up. I should know because I have a movie podcast. It's called Hold Up. These segues are sloppy, but they're working. We have an episode on politics coming up. Cousin Dave's going to join us on that. I think Murphy just chimed in about that in the comments, actually. He's watching the American president right now, and it makes him sympathize with Sisyphus. Cousin Dave says it's a great movie, Murphy. I haven't watched it yet, so we'll find out.
Speaking of lack of democracy, by the way, Americans.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, well.
This week has been
abject.
Who needs a speaker of the House?
Oh, man. They should just they should have just been playing the yakety sax the whole week, honestly.
Should have had a cool, funny music playing in the background. Super Mater Brothers podcast. They review reality shows. Yeah, that's what they do. Oh, we did the Marvel recap over there as well. The Mary Mater Marvel Society. Check that out. MCU 2022 recap. Check out KBBBL. We do that every Friday where we review the Simpsons episodes. We're starting at the beginning and we're going until it gets bad. We're on season 1, episode 7 right now.
Oh,
It's been fun. We throw
excellent.
little science segments into there, little philosophy segments. There's all kinds going over there. We give beer companies free sponsorship, lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trivial debates. Also check that out. There's one coming up on reality shows. They're going to debate things about reality shows. I will not be involved in that particular episode.
Me neither.
Should they stop? Yes. That's why we don't go.
Who was on the last one, though? Check it out. See how I did. And then also the Hellbound podcast, a horror movie podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. Definitely check that out as well. That's all our many podcasts in our mighty federation for now. Look at that. Beautiful. We're working on merch. We're working on a website. It'll all be up soon. You can get your UFP merch here soon. I know you're all aching for it. So we'll soothe
Be still my
that.
heart.
Yes, exactly.
I love to
All
wear,
right, fellas.
stuff. So I'll be wearing that.
Oh, yeah.
See, would that be a sweet UFP one right there?
Yeah,
In that right
yeah.
spot
Oh, man.
on Adam.
That's
Mhm.
right.
I think so. All right, let's get
Ad
out of here,
astra
fellas.
per aspera. Really great. All right. Well, in that case, end transmission.